capability of doing digital recording. So
Hey, here we go, Mayor. It's on.
Oh, wait a minute, it's on. We're good.
all
All
I
right.
do is say that.
We're saved by the light. Public hearing number 1. The purpose of the public hearing is to receive citizens' comments on the proposed adoption of our new flood maps and associated text amendments to Oak Island's flood damage prevention and ordinance for compliance with the minimum criteria of the National Flood Insurance Program. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone signed up to speak on
I
that?
do not have anyone signed up for that public hearing.
Okay, at this time, I entertain a motion to close public hearing number 1.
So moved.
Second, please.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. That- Excuse me, the council may take action to approve this resolution.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the resolution to adopt the primary flood maps released on August 29, 2014, with effective date to be August 28, 2018, and the amendments to Oak Island's flood damage prevention ordinance as proposed, and to adopt the associated plan consistency statement.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Show of hands. Thank you. Public hearing number 2. The purpose of the public hearing is to hear citizens' comments on preliminary plat for Phase 1 of the Pine Forest development. Do we have anyone signed up to speak on that?
I do not have anyone signed up, but I believe the applicant probably.
Are the applicants here? Would you like to speak? Okay, very good. Thank you.
I have several questions, Madam Mayor.
Okay, you want to come on up to the, why don't we close the hearing?
That's fine.
No,
this-
we need to keep it open until
You want to keep it open?
he finishes.
All right, go ahead. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Mark Bramble. I'll be overseeing the development for Pine Forest Plantation.
Thank you. Actually, my first question is for staff. So the current tree ordinance would be applicable to Pine Forest development? Is that correct, my understanding?
For Phase 1, unless there's subsequent changes to the tree ordinance or something for later phases, as of right now, our current ordinance for this initial phase, yes.
Thank you. And is it correct, as I read these maps at the plat, that the setbacks are slightly smaller for this phase than the island?
Because it was approved as a planned unit development, that's one of the major points of having a planned unit development. Setbacks are flexible, you can negotiate that kind of things for large developments of this sort. Kind of like South Harbor Village, same deal.
Yeah, and I note there are other wetland set-asides and green barrier, which is gratifying to see. So I guess my question for the developer, I only have one question, sir, and thank you for being gracious enough to answer it. Are there, as you contemplate the build-out, going to be restrictive covenants which would inhibit future residents from planting or creating vegetative barriers on their property?
You're asking if they would prohibit? Prohibit?
Would they incentivize people to replant?
Oh, yes. Yeah, no, there will be as part of the architectural review standards, there will be minimum landscaping criteria that will require homeowners to plant a minimum of a certain number of trees and submit a landscape plan for review.
Thank you.
This time I entertain a motion to close public hearing number 2.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the proposed Pine Forest preliminary plat.
Second.
All in favor, please. Raise your hand. Thank you. Public hearing number 3. The purpose of the public hearing is to receive citizen comments on a proposed amendment to Section 18-82, specific regulations, H, fences 3.
I do not have anyone signed up for that.
Okay. This time I'd like to have a motion to close public hearing number 3.
So approved. So moved.
Again, Madam Mayor, I have a question.
Yes.
Again, for staff.
I'm sorry, did we vote on closing the hearing?
No, we haven't got a second yet.
Jake, if I may ask you to summarize briefly the objections of the planning board, the unanimous objection of the planning board. I'd like to understand their logic
Sure, absolutely. I put in the staff report a paragraph regarding that, as well as I created a diagram drawing showing their issues. There are certain scenarios, if you had a corner lot that is, corner parcel that is multiple lots inside one parcel, and the fence is built permissibly so, with 6 feet along the side road, one of the north-south facing roads, and subsequently after the fact the parcel were to be subdivided, you could in that scenario have a 6-foot fence in what would now be created the front yard as far as our zoning ordinance is concerned, as what's considered the front. So that is one of the concerns that they had.
So is that an exception, or is that something that occurs fairly frequently when people subdivide corner lots?
That would be, in my opinion, a very unusual scenario, by far an outlier. In my opinion, the pros by far outweigh the cons. In fact, many non-conforming fences would be turned the other way, going conforming.
And I don't know, if you cannot answer this, I'll understand, certainly. How many corner lots are there that could be potentially subdivided? When you say it's a one-off, it's an aberration.
Well, hypothetically, I mean, all corner lots, if you were to recombine with the lot just adjacent to you, could then be subdivided later on. So hypothetically, everyone. But if you're asking which existing corner lots now could be subdivided and still, be within the parameters of our zoning ordinance to be a legal subdivision, that would be really impossible to say without having to do a windshield survey of every single corner lot. That would take a long time.
Let me rephrase and try it another way. What I'm trying to find is a metric for frequency. So in your experience, how many subdivided corner lots have there been?
Oh, one, maybe two that I can recall since I've been with the town.
In the last 4 years?
A little over 2 years.
2 years. Okay. Thank you.
Is that it? You good? Jeff, would you like to state your motion, or
Motion to close public hearing.
second, please?
Second.
All in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you. Moving on to the presentation, proclamations, and recognition. Wait. Oh, you've got action. I'm sorry. I apologize. I do that every time on the last one. All right. Entertain a motion. You can take action on this. Is that all right?
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the text amendment with the associated plan consistency statement.
How about a second?
Second.
Do any discussion? Any further discussion? All in favor, by a raise of hands, please. All opposed? 1-4. Thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
can we move or add the proclamation for Aubrey Hickman to proclamations? We'll also vote for it under new business, but that way all of our proclamations will be under our proclamations.
Yes, ma'am, we may. So we're going to start with proclamation number 1, Arbor Day 2018. And Councilman Weinkoff, since you're, excuse me?
Arbor Day? Is that one we're doing? Okay.
Number 1 first.
Okay. Whereas the town council and citizens of the town of Oak Island are greatly saddened, I got the wrong one. You got the wrong one. I made the wrong one.
It's in your book. It's on page 46.
Okay. I'm not saddened. Here you go. Let's try this again. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees, and as whereas this holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for the wildlife. And whereas trees are renewable resources giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our town increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community, and the wooded nature of Oak Island helps set it apart from the other beach towns in North Carolina. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. And whereas the town of Oak Island was again recognized as a Tree City USA for 2017 by the National Arbor Day Foundation and desires to continue its tree planting practices. Whereas the Oak Island Beautification Club, with support from the Oak Island Environmental Committee, helped Oak Island celebrate an early Arbor Day by holding a tree sapling giveaway, promoting the growth of native trees in town. Therefore, Mayor Sin Brochure of the town of Oak Island, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim April 27, 2018 as Arbor Day in the town of Oak Island, and urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands, and to consider planting their own rain garden using native trees and plants. Further, I urge all citizens to plant trees to promote the well-being of this and future generations.
Thank you, Councilman Monkoff. Next, we're going to have a resolution read by retired Officer Scott. Mr. Scott, would you go to the podium?
Could I get Mr. Hickman's family to join me at the podium, please?
I think we saw them come in.
Right here.
Oh, okay, great.
Welcome.
I'd just like to say this is such a pleasure and honor to be able to do this. I knew Mr. Hickman, and I guess probably half the room probably knew him as an old-timey policeman that would take care of business and would grow the best vegetables I've ever eaten in my life. So this is for Mr. Hickman. The town of Oak Island citizens and the town of Long Beach are greatly saddened by the death of Aubrey Hickman, former police chief of the towns of Long Beach and Yopon Beach, on March 24th, 2018. Chief Hickman served his community for 33 years in law enforcement locally, serving as chief of the Long Beach Police Department and its only police officer before leading the Yopon Beach Police Department for more than 20 years until his retirement in 1994. While he served as chief for Long Beach, the police radio was in the Hickman family home, and the wife dispatched calls, truly making the community safe and a cooperative family effort. Chief Hickman never wore a sidearm until his last 2 years in law enforcement. He was known for the important advice he gave to his officers, telling them they could take a person's freedom, but should not take away that person's dignity. His ties to the community extended much deeper than his service in town government. Throughout his years in Long Beach and Yopon Beach, Chief Hickman saw so many changes, and he takes with him a wealth of knowledge about the events and people that built our community. He earned our respect, admiration, and high regard of all who he had the pleasure of knowing and working with him. And the Oak Island community has sustained a great loss with his death. Now, therefore, be it resolved on behalf of the town of Oak Island, its citizens, its mayor, and the town council, by this resolution and public record, extends sincere regret to Aubrey Hickman's family members for their loss, and the hope that his family will be consoled by the memories of his life and achievements. Be it further resolved that this resolution be part of the official minutes of the town of Oak Island, and an official copy of this expression of our deepest sympathy be presented to the family. This 9th day of April, 2018, signed by our mayor, Sin Brochure.
Any adjustments to the, or approval of the agenda? Do we have any adjustments to the agenda?
Madam Mayor, I would like to ask that we move committee appointments for Emergency Services Board to after new business number 1, where they're considering a recommendation from Emergency Services to dissolve that board.
So we'll skip it and then come back to it.
Just skip it and come back to it.
Any more? This time I would like to have a motion to approve this agenda as amended.
So moved.
All in favor? Excuse me, second, Mr. Bott, all in favor? Thank you. Moving on to the public comment section of our agenda. Do we have anyone that'd like to make a statement?
Aaron Largent.
Please state your name, and we do have a 3-minute limit.
Aaron Largent, 4100 Marsh Grove Lane, Southport, North Carolina. I've lived here basically 8 years and still don't know why my mailing address is Southport when I live in the town of Oak Island city limits, but that's a story for another day. I've not only been a frequent golfer at the Par 3 golf course at South Harbor, but I've served on its advisory board for the past 3 years. I've had the pleasure of seeing the course go from what I would term poor to a fairly friend but challenging course, as most of you know that's played there. As a golf course committee member, I've also watched the course grow in membership and play as the staff, maintenance crew, and advisory board have all stepped up individually to improve the grounds of the course as well as help market the course to a much broader and wider audience. Now, some of you may not know this, but we've actually done this through very limited advertising, taking advantage of many free opportunities through website links and memberships in the National Par 3 Golf Associations. Again, it didn't cost us a penny to get that exposure. We also signed up on the Google My Business website, which is another free service. Because of the situation with the golf course, we've kind of hesitated on being too aggressive about the marketing of it because it's been in limbo basically for over a year. As a player there, I've heard a lot of comments from golfers as well as seen some of the reviews on our website and on the Google My Business site. I forward that information to the town manager, Dave Kelly, periodically for him to review so he can see what's going on online. Interestingly, the last month alone, we had a 70% increase in website traffic on Google My Business. And I think that says a lot. It means basically that we're getting the kind of exposure we now need to continue the positive growth of the course going into this high season. I also want to recognize through some kudos, Jim Cross, who's here tonight. If you stand up, Jim Cross, please. And the maintenance staff for all their hard work at the course. The new sand in the bunkers has gone a long way to improve play. The newly installed fountain in the number 18 pond was donated by South Harbor resident. Again, didn't cost the town a penny. And has improved the look of the course from the road substantially. If you drive by the course via the road there, you will see the fountain in number 18 pond. All in all, the course is a true asset to the community, and I would encourage everyone to visit it, become familiar with the course in the community there. I am available to meet with any of the town council members that want to take a walking tour. I'd be more than happy to show you that. And I'm very hopeful that you will continue to support the Oak Island Par 3 golf course at South Harbor. And again, I thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. The committee's doing a wonderful job. Thank you for all your work and efforts.
John Falk.
John Falk, 164 Northwest 2nd Street. I came tonight as prior chairman of the golf committee, and I'd like to remind the town of the business plan that was presented to them over 4 years ago and which was adopted by the town. I'd like to read the mission statement for that. To implement an effective strategy which will ensure through recreational and financial sound annual sustainability of the Oak Island Par 3 golf course. Provide premier recreational and physical well-being opportunities at a well-maintained public facility, where any golfer, regardless of age or skill level, will find challenging and enjoyable participation in the golf experience. The summary that we had put together and written also, which is part of the business plan. The survival of the Oak Island Par 3 golf course at South Harbor rests upon successful stewardship by the town. In order to become self-sustaining, the golf course must improve operations and develop fresh marketing concepts. The golf course's image as an icon and asset to the town should be established. The golf course should appear to the residents of Oak Island as an extension of their home, not just an aging town facility. If the town of Oak Island develops new attitudes along with upgrades as required, it can attract new players needed to maintain the golf course operations. The golf course players should be made to feel they are number one to the golf course mission. In years ahead, every effort should be made to reach out to individual players to learn about their needs and wants. Golf course quality is essential to retaining players, which will in turn sustain revenues. Again, I'd like to thank Jim Cross, too, for his effort and staff out there in maintaining the golf course. I'd also like to thank the South Harbor residents who, a lot of inspiration going on right now with getting it in order and their concerns for the golf course also. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mary Brewer.
Mary Ann Brewer, 3524 East Pelican Drive. I just want to say kudos to whoever was responsible for getting the sea oats planted so quickly. I'm sure the rain today has helped them tremendously. I've got two other things I'd like for you to think about. First of all, I know there are beaches in this part of the world that put some permanent walkways over the dune. Now, we can't possibly do that over every public access, but we could do it on a few of the most popular ones, because by not doing it, the dune gets worn down to a nub. Also, it might make it easier for some people to access the beach on a solid wooden stair-step platform type thing than the shifting sands. You don't know. The other thing I got asked this week by someone who's a recent Oak Islander was, what do we do with these emergency accesses which are scraped even when we have a hurricane? And I said, I don't know that we do anything except let the water come and wear away the dune. And she said, well, what about sandbags or else pushing some dirt into that breach? And I said, I don't know if anybody's ever thought about it. But I'm asking you to think about it in the future, because we will have more storms. And if these things are scraped flat, the water's going to come through, going to take the dune and give us that moat, famous moat that is behind the dune. And I thank you for your attention.
Roseanne Fortner.
Roseanne Fortner, 113 Paulus Circle, on behalf of the Beach Preservation Society. You may have have seen on Facebook, or you may have had your heart broken in person when you tried to buy a ticket for our fundraiser. They sold out in March. This is the first time that's ever happened, but we apologize to those who weren't fast enough on the draw to get those tickets, and we are not able to make refunds if you got one and don't have a chance to use it. There is a waiting list of people who would really like to get tickets. It's at the Grape and Ale. So if you are wanting to surrender your ticket, please contact the Grape and Ale, and they can put you in touch with somebody for that. This active group that never stops all year long has 5 vacancies on our 10-member board coming by September. 2 of us will reapply. That means that there will be additional chances for you to become involved in all of the great things that we do to propel beach preservation into everybody's attention and to get the things out here that make the beach experience so wonderful for our visitors. We hope you will join us as a volunteer between now and September to find out what we do and how you can help us to preserve the beach. First thing we need is a person to adopt a beach access at 13 West. So if you're interested in doing that and are a current member, please see us about that or contact us at beachoki@outlook.com, our email address. In Earth Week, not this week, but next, we will be participating in and assisting with some of the Earth Week activities organized by Parks and Recreation Department. The Thursday night movie, The Plastic Ocean, is one that is a famous one produced by our local expert, Dr. Bonnie Monteleone from UNCW. We'll be introducing her at the Recreation Center Thursday the 19th at 6:30. This is a free event, but because of limited space, they would like for you to make reservations in advance by calling the Rec Center. Thursday night, the April 19th at 6:30 at Plastic Ocean. Earth Day is the Earth Day event for schools and the public is Friday, April 20th, and there will be exhibits and activities for schools and families from 10 to 2 at the soccer field. Everyone is invited to come and enjoy those kinds of things that we share with the public. Saturday, if you didn't get your ticket to the fundraiser, there's the Lighthouse Run that you might participate in and other things going on in the park. We appreciate your participation in all the things that we do. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Faulkner.
Edward Jizwicki. I'm going to need this phonetical spelling every time. Thank you.
Edwards Wiki, 128 Northwest 19th Street. I'm here to talk about the consideration of the land exchange that's coming about and we're working on right now. I'm questioning the due diligence that was put into establishing the value of the lots that are being exchanged. Now, you have, according to the information you're providing, a value of $175,000 per lot. Now, looking at the information that you also provided as far as the records are concerned, the county records, one lot is 50 by 150 feet, one lot is 50 by 75, and one lot is 50 feet by 229. Now, how you can arbitrarily place a value of $175,000 on 3 lots substantially different in size is questionable to me. And also, the amount of money, even at 175, seems low to me, considering the location of the lots being beachfront. Now, I think anybody would buy a lot for $175,000 on Oak Island for $175,000. So I think it should be reconsidered as establishing the value and getting a fair value for the community here in Oak Island. Thank you.
Thank you.
Betty Hupp.
Sorry, folks, it takes me a little while to get up anymore. My name is Betty Hupp. I live at 7916 East Yacht Drive, and I'm here also to speak of this land deal. So 801 Ocean Boulevard is an event location or an event destination or something or other such as that, and it has no place to park. So if I were to go to an event destination or whatever that's called, I wouldn't have any place to park there. So it's the property. If it has been evaluated by our county as such, then it should be reevaluated as worth little more than the value of the land it sits on, less the cost of the destruction of said building. I haven't visited the properties we'll hand over to Mr. Burnett, but it seems to me 3 properties plus over $30,000 in cash is a large amount of value for what we're getting. Mr. Burnett is a very smart businessman, and he is. He must have laughed all the way to the bank when he gave his par 3 golf course to Oak Island and received by our prior city council, who had very little concern for us, the taxpayers, who cough up the cash. By his giving the golf course to the town, he maintained his selling point for a house on a golf course when South Harbor was developed, and he didn't have to pay any more out. I think this city council is smarter. I think you would stop, if you would stop pacifying real estate people and developers and think of us taxpayers who helped elect you all, and think of this island that you all were elected to protect. And by the way, we don't need to be in the restaurant building business if that's what this deal is about. And thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Hill.
Leon Hicks.
Good evening, Leon Hicks, 4024 Barnes Bluff, and you're here to speak about the par 3 golf course. And the good news is, based on a meeting we just had recently with Mr. Eads, Mr. Kelly, the mayor, and Mr. Scott, and we got our financial statements in order, and we really are nearing into the break-even point on revenues with par 3 golf course. I think it's a good asset for the town. In that meeting with the members of the council and the mayor and members of the Oak Island or the South Harbor Village Golf Course Committee, we came up with several ideas that would actually break even on this, with just looking at things such as a modicum or a modest increase in player fees, additional advertisements and things of this nature. So the bottom line is it's a good news story. We all went into that meeting, I guess, ready again for a typical standoff kind of thing, but it's amazing what a difference money makes when we find out that we're actually having a good story here. So I just want to thank the members of the town council that have worked with us. Thank the master board and the members of the master board that have worked hard to put together this scenario on how we can make this a profitable venture for the town. And so I think the main thing we need to do now, though, again, is to continue putting our money behind the golf course, making it a playable asset. Again, that more than anything else was the most important feature in bringing players to the course. So I want to thank all of you for your efforts on behalf of the golf course, and we look forward to a profitable venture going forward in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hicks.
George Small.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I just wanted to speak in general terms about recreational amenities in any community. And I think it's really important to look a little bit beyond whether they're making money for the community or costing the community money. the value of them is that they serve all of us as residents. And their value is not in dollars always, it's in how broad and fully functional the community is for all types of people. When I think of baseball fields and soccer fields, I don't know if they make any money at all, but I certainly know that they serve element of the community, but not usually everyone in the community. I don't play soccer anymore, and I don't play baseball anymore. However, there are other recreational facilities, such as these pickleball courts. Thank you very much for those. And this wonderful par 3 golf course that can be played by every age group. My grandkids can play on it and enjoy it. My parents could play on it and enjoy it if they were still here. I love that course, and I think many people around this community do. And whether it makes money for the community or costs the community some money, it's still a very valuable amenity that shows that Oak Island really cares about all of our people. And we're trying to provide facilities that serve all of them. And I hope that you'll keep that in mind. I'm really happy to hear that we're getting near a break-even point, but even if we weren't, I think it's a very valuable facility that the town can commit to and commit funds to. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Helen Cashwell.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Helen Cashwell, 3407 East Yacht. I'd just like to know when the town got into the real estate business. This land swap that is on the agenda is a prime example of how bad things can go wrong if the right emphasis is not placed on the activities. Why are you all not letting the marketplace work? Tax values are really just a firm guideline for an equal manner to establish property taxes. Why didn't you advertise or auction off these lots that the town owns? I guarantee you that there isn't a builder in town that wouldn't have jumped on the chance to overbid what you're using as a baseline for those lots. And what's the plan for 801 Ocean Way? It was approved originally without adequate parking, and the situation has worsened since that time. We citizens are entitled to know the reason for such a bad deal and how's it going to improve Oak Island. I must say that listening to the improvement of the golf course, maybe it will bring out innovation from the citizens. It certainly isn't happening on this council. Ed Burnett is a builder, as well as the owner of 801. Along with the deal regarding the golf course in South Harbor, he continues to laugh all the way to the bank and is in dealing with the novices that run our town. I bet he knows what he'll do with the 3 lots. And you guys stay tuned and you'll realize how smart a businessman he really is. Are you going to tear it down for parking for the pier? If so, it'll become a very high-priced parking lot when adding the expense of the tear down. Are you going to renovate it for other somethings? More expense. The manner in which the bids for the contracts on the pier and the Flying Fish were handled just continues to underline just how bad business people you all are. Do we really have a future for the plan of our town? Are we just arriving at the time when a budget must be established for the next year? I vividly remember all of you running on your candidacy for council saying how you're concerned with transparency in government actions and the rule of law. I sincerely hope that you'll all reconsider this proposal tonight and withhold approval until such time as the future and the justification for such a swap can be honestly justified for all the citizens and the betterment of Oak Island. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
That's all I have signed up for.
All right, thank you all for your comments. We'll move on to the council reports. Start with you, Councilman Bott.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to begin by complimenting and thanking my fellow citizens for their attendance and their extraordinary citizenship during the 2 town hall meetings that we had, particularly the town hall meeting on trees and the tree ordinance and what was described as an inherent conflict between our tree ordinance and our intent to save trees and the state's onerous stormwater management regulations. And as much as I enjoyed the conversation, the civility of it, the thoughtfulness of it, I think the way in which it was framed and the way in which it was left is not accurate. This is a wicked problem, but it is not intractable. It is not the Gordian knot. This can be untied. And so I intend at the next council meeting to offer 2 remedies. First, a resolution to the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality to review the regulations for coastal communities and specifically to visit Oak Island and look at, on a ground level basis, the difficulties we encounter. And second, I will offer an amendment to our current tree amendment ordinance, which will double the number of trees required and which will also create an incentive plan, a financially driven incentive plan to replant. From my perspective, there are things we can do. They may be difficult, they may be costly, but to simply say we have a tree conundrum, even though the citizens demand action, and do nothing is not acceptable. So I was heartened by the turnout and by the many people who spoke to the need to preserve our landscape, both aesthetically and environmentally, but I don't accept the notion there's nothing we can do. I believe we can continue to fight for our tree canopy. And lastly, the point was made several times, I think it's an extremely important and pivotal point, that we need to look to the mainland to future development and to consider expanding our tree protection as we build out on the mainland, as we develop that. And I think we're going to need to re-examine our tree ordinance again with a mind towards environmental conservation, using the green toolbox, being creative in an effort to save trees and preserve our natural environment. So, end report, comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Bale.
The only thing I would like to say is I'm thrilled to death about the par 3 golf course. That shows me that my motion was not made in vain. What it actually did was got the residents, it got the homeowners associations with an S, and the town working together for the good of that golf course. And I am thrilled to death.
Have no report, Mayor.
Councilman Blaylock.
I'd just like to say that I attended my first meeting of the Par 3 committee the other day. I was well received. It was very positive, very upbeat. I am happy to see it moving forward. I'm happy to see the positive people making a difference. There are those who would beat a dead horse forever, but that's the way it is. Also, I would like to compliment the meeting on the bridge closing. Everybody, it's not a good thing. It's something we have to live with, but all those who were involved, I had a feeling of coming together and dealing with it so that it helps everybody get through that period of time. Thank you.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'd like to talk a little bit about this land swap. 5 years ago, when I came in this office, this town was close to bankruptcy because of our sewer. This council and the previous council has brought this town back to life. One reason why is because we look at things as a business deal. Instead of bringing everything and putting it on the backs of the taxpayers, we look at every possible way to generate money. That's what the mayor and I decided last year when we were looking at how we're going to fund the beaches. We're just going to look at every possible way to generate money. This is an opportunity for this town to look for the future, not in the past. And that's what we're doing. We're looking at the future, how we're going to proceed in the future. The pier house and the pier is in okay shape, but it's not great shape. Here will give us an opportunity to explore other options, not run it as a town, but letting somebody else run them. and generate money that will come into the future of this town for beach nourishment, for pier maintenance, and to make sure the taxpayers don't have to put a burden putting money into the beach. That's our whole goal, is to look at this town as a business and run it like a business. And so far, we've generated enough money to run this town for a few years if we didn't have the money coming in. That's the whole purpose we're elected, is to make sure we look to the future. And that's exactly what this council does. We don't look in the past one bit. If we can make money and take it off the taxpayers' burden, that's what we're looking at. And that's why when we look at this deal, the money that would generate from these lots, if they put houses on them, the tax value, absolutely. So do I think this is a good deal after going through and looking at this building? Absolutely I do. And I think it's to the best interest of this town for the future to go ahead and do this deal and move forward and make sure we take care of the taxpayers first. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Will you mention how we got those lots?
Ma'am?
How we came to own those lots to start with?
Those lots were given to us. They were donated to the town. So we have nothing invested in the lots. But right now, we're getting ready to then get something invested for us, the taxpayers. And that's our main goal.
And you might want to add that the pier is paid for and the property is...
It is. Everything's going to be paid for in that area. And parking, we are considering parking. We're looking at other options too. We're looking at generalizing a whole area for people to be able to enjoy. We don't go in it blind with blinders on. We look at the whole picture when we do something. That's what we're doing.
Thank you, Councilman Weinkauffer. Anything else?
No, ma'am.
All right, Mayor has no report tonight, but I do thank my council for speaking out, and thank you guys for participating. At this time, I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second, please.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you.
You're not used to that, were you?
All righty. Committee appointments. We're going to skip number 1 and go to the Board of Adjustments, 2 terms ending in March 2021, and there are 2 names. Bob Ludwig, please. It's Bob Ludwig. Is the first name? Again? Okay, thank you. Reese Simmons. Thank you. Environmental Advisory Committee, 1 term ending June 2018 and 1 ending June 2019. Michael Pratt. It's unanimous. Lisa?
And just to clarify, I'll put Mr. Pratt in the longer term. It seems logical.
Oh, we do have 1 more term?
Well,
This was the longer term?
You have two
Okay.
terms and only one person
So
applying.
we still need a
I'll
committee
advertise for
member.
the other one.
Thank you. Parks and Rec Advisory Board, 2 terms ending March 2021. Art Seaford. Again, unanimous, Lisa. Thank you. On to administrative reports, and we'll start with you, Mr. Kelly.
Yes, ma'am. We have some good news. The Wilmington Harbor project should be moving forward. We had the bid opening on this past Friday. The Corps did receive 2 good bids. They're under review right now, and they should let us know a meeting time on Wednesday to get for our approval for that. The town did put in $3 million for this project, and those numbers came in acceptable as well. And what that will allow is for us to go from McGlamory Street to Southeast 58th Street with the beachfront. And it goes from 120 feet of berm out in front down to 90 feet at 58th Street. So that will help us. On Wednesday, they will give us a contact. They're looking at starting on the project on May 1st. There's still some turtle issues that need to be worked out for us to pick up some other turtle reviews and make sure we're out there inspecting the beach for that. And they may require us to do a little bit more on that like they did on the west end of the beach when we did the eastern channel. The pier update, progress is still moving forward on the pier. We got 26 pilings in. We got 8 more pilings to put, and that'll get us to the low water line. We've asked CAMA for a modification on the handicap ramp to go to 8 foot in width instead of 5 foot in width to allow for a 2-way traffic on the ADA ramp in between the pier and 801. We've also asked for them to allow us to continue work. It's under review. The Corps is also having under review, and with the Wilmington Harbor project, that may allow us to be able to work on the pier continuously and keep right on working. Once we reach past the low water line, or the low tide line will be on top of it, working downwards anyway. So we won't have anything else on the beach at that point. So they'll hopefully let us go. And that's all I have at this time.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Eves?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have a few things to discuss in closed session regarding pending litigation.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, we have no old business tonight, so we'll move on to new business, and we're going to start with the consideration and recommendation for Emergency Service Advisory Board to dissolve the board. Entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor, this was discussed with the board, and this was their suggestion and their pleasure, so I make a motion that we dissolve the Emergency Services Board.
Second, please.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, I would like to thank the guys for all the work they did over the years. They had some difficult things to deal with, and I would suggest that they get together periodically anyway. But thanks again, guys, for the good job. Appreciate it.
Further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Number 2, consideration of resolution authorizing exchange of property, and that's the property that Mr. Councilman Weinkauf was just talking about. This time I entertain a motion to approve the resolution.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the resolution authorizing exchange of property to accept the items for donation to the town as presented, and also that any all taxes, liens, promissory notes due at the time of closing be paid by the ELB family.
Second? Yes.
Just for clarification, the town takes the property free and clear or does not close on the transaction.
Correct.
Second, please.
Second.
Ms. Blakely? Any discussion? Any further discussion?
Yes, Madam Mayor. So there have been some concerns raised by the public, and I think that Councilman Weinstein responded to some of them. Let me respond in a slightly different way. Historically, we have been in the pier business. I'm not sure why, but we are. And the question is, how do we move forward on a sustainable basis to generate revenue? How do we maximize our opportunities? Should we reinvest in a structure which is nearing end of life, or should we try a more creative, a bolder approach? And so my support for it is based on that, with the proviso that we do need, as some have suggested, we do need a clear and detailed business plan which will allow us to develop the pier complex and whatever it may become. Because without that, we will continue, as we have on other projects, not to generate the revenue that we need. I'm confident that we can build such a plan, and I think this is a situation where it is worth the risk, because without it, we have a pier and no infrastructure. So from that standpoint, this is the bold decision that needs to be made. That's not to say there aren't risks and downsides. There are always risks and downsides, but this is a case where we need to move forward.
Any more discussion? All right, call for a vote. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Number 3, consideration of adopting the resolution and memorandum from Mr. Aubrey Hickman. This is just we didn't adopt it yet. We didn't officially adopt it.
We read it. We need to adopt it.
I need a motion to adopt the resolution.
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Second.
All in favor, please raise your hand. This time I entertain a motion to go into closed session.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we go into closed session to consult with the town attorney on pending litigation and to discuss specific personnel pursuant to NCGS 143, 318, 11A, 3, and 6.
Thank y'all for coming.
Wait, you got to have a second and a vote.
I'm sorry. Second. All in favor?
Thank you. This
time I'll call the town hall meeting back to order.
Madam Mayor, we need to have the minutes reflect that although we said one of the reasons for going into closed session was specific personnel, that was not discussed. However, we did discuss land acquisition in closed session, so I want to make sure the minutes reflect that.
Okay, thank you.
No action was taken.
You got that, Lisa? At this time, make the statement that there was no action taken in closed session, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second, please. All in favor? Thank you, gentlemen. And
Hey,
Madam.
can I move the